Said an ugly word on film.
Uh-oh. Oh gosh, turn that down.
Are y'all cool enough?
Yeah. Breathe.
Well, turn that down so I don't have to holler.
Don't turn it off.
Man, it's not going to be an hour and a half a day because it's 11. All right, so anybody remember anything from last week?
Breathe.
Breathe, there you go. So you get that right every time. Every time. Oh, babbling squiggles, that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Does somebody look up Hebrews for me?
Watch out.
All of it. Any of you scholars in here know about the Hebrews, folks? Huh? No? Does anybody have a little couple paragraph commentary before the book? What's it say?
It says the author of Hebrews neither names himself or clearly designates his audience. The traditional title to the Hebrews reflects the ancient assumption that the original recipients were Jewish Christians. The author's identity has been a matter of significant conjecture throughout church history. In antiquity, authorship was attributed to figures such as Barnabas or especially Paul. However, several of the most astute church fathers recognize considerable differences in style and method of argument between this book and Paul's named writings. Scholars have suggested other possible authors such as Clement, Luke, or Apollos. However, most today concede that this author remains anonymous. It seems that the judgment expressed by Origen remains correct. Who actually wrote the epistle, only God knows. The author clearly knew his recipients and longed to be reunited with them. They had a mutual friend in Timothy, and probably this was the same Timothy who ministered alongside Paul. The author was presumably male, since he refers to himself using a masculine participle. Would fail me to tell. Since us included the author in 2 verse 3, the salvation attested to us by those who heard. Also Italy. Scholars debate whether he was in Italy writing to the church elsewhere or was outside Italy, though accompanied by Italians and writing back to an audience in Italy, possibly in Rome. Can we keep going?
Yeah, because the author's not what I'm looking for.
The audience's social situation can be inferred from commands to remember those who are in prison and who are mistreated. Timothy himself had just been set free. Indeed, the author of Hebrews commended his audience for the former endurance of persecution, for their compassion on those in prison, and for having joyfully accepted the plundering of his property. The author warned against strange teachings in the church, and these teachings may have been related to the use of ritual foods. Moreover, he repeatedly called his audience to persevere in the faith and cautioned them about the danger of leaving the Christian community, as he sought to show the superiority of Christ to Mosaic sacrifices and rituals. Hence, the early church was likely correct to assert that Jewish Christians, as well as Gentiles who had previously been drawn to the Jewish religion, were the intended audience for this book. Furthermore, such an audience would have well understood the book's many citations and allusions to the Old Testament, and would have shared in the writer's frequent use of the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament.
Is that all?
That's it.
Oh, they didn't know what they was talking about.
It's got another couple paragraphs on day.
Oh, well, I'm looking for, that... Who cares who wrote it? They dead anyway. But that's why a lot of times when you're reading commentary, because we try to do God, and we got 2,000 years of layered commentary on it. And this dude somehow thought they paid him, he had his chance to get his words in a Bible, and he wrote this shit and basically said nobody knows nothing. So, you remember me, baby? No, I remember. My boy. So anyway, what do y'all? Any of y'all have any verses you memorized from Hebrews? What? Nothing. Crickets. Chirp, 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 chirp. Do y'all even have headings over the chapters. What do they say? On chapter 1, what kind of heading you got?
God's final word.
God's final word is... Okay.
The sun is higher than angels.
Final word, W-O-R-D, is Son, or the Logos, is higher than angels, right? And then, what's the second chapter say?
Warning to pay attention.
Mine said Jesus is superior to the Mosaic law.
Okay. Jesus, higher than the law. What's the next chapter say?
Jesus greater than Moses, chapter 3.
Jesus greater than Moses. Alright. Chapter 4.
Sabbath rest for the people of God.
Anybody got any verses underlined in that?
There remains therefore a Sabbath rest for the people of God.
Okay, that God's intention for us was rest. It's Sabbath, that's what rest is.
So the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword.
So it ain't dead pine trees with ink. It ain't dead pine trees with ink. Or dead cow skins that wrap it up. So the Word of God ain't this. Huh? Oh, they're afraid a lightning bolt's going to hit me, baby.
That's all we got to go by.
No, it ain't.
Bible.
No, it ain't.
What else?
If you ever learn how to fucking breathe, you'd understand. I can't go through all that again. Okay. You got 2,000 years of layered commentary on this house, and you can't even read Greek.
Yeah.
So, are you believing what somebody told you about it? Okay, that's why it says, you'll know the truth, not believe the truth, and then the truth will set you free when you know it, not when you believe it. Trying to believe and get all your little verses right is trying to perform magic. Anyway, okay. So chapter 5, what's that?
Jesus the great high priest.
Jesus, high priest. That doesn't mean he's smoking marijuana. He's a
This one says the high priest who cried out in pain.
All right, let me read that so that if somebody's watching this, they'll know what I'm saying. Number 5. What version is this?
It's
Okay, this is the 5th chapter of Hebrews. Every high priest is selected from among the people, is appointed to represent the people in matters related to God. Okay, and this is the ancient traditions in basically all religions. Right? We still do it now, we just call them pastors. When we're functioning as munchkins anyway. It's basically the same function as the wizard had in the Wizard of Oz for the munchkins. Okay? So, and any of y'all Baptist?
No.
We talk about the priesthood of the believer, but we don't really believe it. We only get to that. Well, you could when we got our 15-year-old boy going on and won't nobody tell us what to do. You know. All right. But Paul's going through this. What I understand about this book, or what they say about it, is that these people were being persecuted and were kind of tempted to go back to the old religions. Okay, they were probably Jewish folks that had been raised on external ritual. You had this priest that represented you to God, who then goes and kills animals, and somehow that magically wipes away everything and all that, right? Okay. And it must not have been real good, or God wouldn't have done something different, right? Because remember, God had to go out of his way. What's your name, sir? Doug. God had to go out of his way back here, to tell these people, don't fuck your goats. Okay? So he had a ways to go with them. Okay? Because they were all about their senses and the external world. Alright? And that's why they were so easily manipulated by priest kings and charlatans. That even in the name of Christ, millions of people were murdered. Okay? Because they were believing the priest and the people that are supposed to represent God, and they had no knowledge of that themselves. Because they just read the book and said, okay, I don't really know what this shit means, but I'll read it and the preacher tells me what it means, and so that's what it means. No. Nothing wrong with listening to people and learning from people, but if there's not an external knowledge, then you're just being led about by your senses. And in senses, if you understand me and been around me, that includes all your thoughts and all this. Because our intellect is fun to play with, but it's not real. We've established that, I think, in the last several weeks. Okay? It's no more real than a picture of or even a video of the Gulf is the thing itself. Right? If you swim in the Gulf, there's really no words to describe it to the point of communicating the truth of that experience. Y'all understand me a little bit? Okay. So when I'm talking about senses, I'm talking about the 5 senses, the 6th one if you got an extra one, along with your ego and your intellect. Because it can be an illusion too. At best, it's a mirror. It's something to look at, to play with, to fix your hair with, but you can't fix your hair by doing this. You know? We try to fix ourselves, and this is what we're focused on. You can't see in your own eyes, but it's the one looking out of those eyes that we're trying to do something with. Okay? So mirrors are okay, but they're not the thing itself. All right. Now, so anyway, high priestesses. And he was able to deal gently with those who are ignorant and going astray, since he himself is subject to weakness. He's talking about the high priest of the Hebrew people. That is why he has to offer sacrifice for his own sins as well as the sins of others, and no one takes this honor on himself, but he receives it when called by God, just as Aaron was. In the same way, Christ did not take on himself the glory of becoming a high priest, but God said to him, "You are my son, today I have become your father." And he says in another place, "You're a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek." So there's something different about Christ, Jesus' priesthood, right? Than this external, let's go kill a bunch of goat stuff. And dressing a certain way and having your little thingies and whatever. You know. And this pomp and ritual that feeds the senses, and it becomes our external authority. Let's see. During the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Son though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered. And once made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, and was designated by God to be a high priest in the order of Melchizedek. So apparently, Magic Jesus had to learn some things, if this is true. Right? And once he was made perfect. Didn't say he popped in the world that way, did it? Which is true. So there was some process by which he was made perfect. And perfect in the Greek is not what we think of perfect many times, which is we think of a perfect symmetrical thing with no flaws, with no, you know what I'm talking about? But a perfect tomato plant is very ugly. The point of the tomato plant is not to put in a flower pot and put on your porch. So it's the point of the tomato plant, the perfection of a tomato plant is in its fruit. Right? Okay. So, okay. And then it goes on. We have much to say about this, but it's hard to make it clear to you because you no longer try to understand. In fact, though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God's Word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. And anyone who lives on milk, being still a baby, is not acquainted with the teachings about righteousness or right, or what works. Okay? But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. All right. Let's see. And then again it goes on. Jesus is like Melchizedek, different kind of Melchizedek, different kind of priest. And then it goes up in the chapter most folks know about Hebrews is chapter 11, which is the faith chapter, right? Now faith is a confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith Abel, by faith Enoch, blah, 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 by faith Noah. By faith Abraham, when called to go to a place he would receive as his inheritance, he obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Okay. So there's some degree or some essence of whatever faith is that we don't know. It says Abraham was reckoned as righteous because he went out not knowing where he was going, not because he did it perfectly. Abraham was not a good man. Okay. He was going to pimp his wife out. All right? Oh, here, go hit that, baby. You know, tell him you're my sister. Go ahead and let him hit it, and then we'll go in the morning. That's Abraham. Right? Read it in the Bible. You believe the Bible? That's Abraham. Abraham's righteousness was not in his doing, but in his going, searching for that which could not be seen when he didn't know. Now, part of what goes on in our religious practices is we want to know, we want to know, we want to know. And we search for the guru, the one that's got the right answer, right? Because we're looking for a wizard, a guru, a priest, somebody to give our authority to. And then it becomes their fault if they're wrong, not ours. Right? And then we, like Dorothy, over and over and over again, the curtain gets pulled back, and we see the shit stains in their pants, just like it's in our pants, and we get mad at them. When it's on us for having surrendered our authority to them from the get-go. Right? We hit on this a little bit last week. So, Monday, I was at work play, as is my practice, and we were sitting outside. And anybody ever been to work play? Downtown Birmingham on it? And if you sit outside long enough, guess what you're going to attract? About the same. Hey man, you got a cigarette? Got a dollar? Hamburger? Okay. And because I was out there, because every week we'd compose something and do it. And I sat there outside. Dude came along. There was neon lights and the buzz of the noise of the city and the traffic going by. And I just felt disconnected. You know? No words were flowing. I wasn't in my groove, whatever that is. And I was thinking, I need to come to my senses. What does that mean? How do we use the word come? However you want to spell it. Because it's the same thing.
Realization.
Tell me what you mean.
I mean, like, you become aware of your senses.
Become, yeah. Or I say,
The present.
come here. Or I'm coming. When your mama calls or when your lover calls, I'm coming. I'm not being ugly. It's the come. It's what is, if you talk about it in the slang or profaned way, it's that which emerges from the inside out. You know, either, I mean, think about a time, maybe, if you've ever had this, where you were making love, not slapping a bitch up, but you were making love with someone, and they said, I'm coming. You know, okay, and hopefully you're more than your senses in your flesh. But in that moment, it's like two souls. The soul's emerging. The essence of the self is emerging. I'm moving out of my flesh and I'm coming to the surface. Does this make it, you know what I'm saying? Not just, okay, done, high five, see you. Good game. Or mama calls and you're hungry and ready for supper. And mama calls and you go, I'm coming. You know? Because in love or life, we can be very disconnected from our senses. When we're disconnected from our senses, we're easily ruled by external stuff. Right? You know, I hadn't watched the news in 2 years, but I've been trying to watch some of this presidential stuff. And maybe it's because I've been out of it so long. There's a very real anxiety, feels like, in our culture right now. And folks are very reactive. They're not listening to reason. And the impulse to give their authority over to a Savior is very strong. On this side or that side or whatever side. When there are no Saviors. Because if you wanted to change the system, all of us would just stay home for a week and don't spend no money in the whole damn thing. You know, you don't have to shoot bullets. You just go. You know. But few folks are connected with their senses. They're confused that their senses are their self. That their thoughts are who they are. That their body and these electrical impulses that are fed into their brain, which makes these stereotype responses and reactions to stimulus as though that is the nature of reality or who we are. And when we feel disconnected, the temptation many times is to work harder to figure it out. You know what I'm talking about? But that's like trying to smooth a rippled wave with your hands. Right? The more you fret, the more it gets stirred up. We can't find the way with our insatiable ego. If we could figure it out, it would have already been done. You know? My current critique of the whole Christian thing is that either somebody intentionally don't want you to know what's up, or people are really retarded. Because after 2,000 years, they ought to have better answers to these simple little questions. Do y'all hear me? You know, I say most, I'd have to think about it, but some large majority of what we do as Christians ain't got a damn thing to do with Jesus. Okay? It has to do with rituals. Basically, it's just a repeat of the Jewish stuff that Paul was talking about. If it wasn't so, then we wouldn't still have all these questions after indulging in this religion for 30, 40, 50 years. Still looking for the secret. Okay? Because learning all these, remember when you can memorize this thing and still not know it, or the point of it. You can be a very good scholar, all right, and have dueling Bibles and know the numbers and stuff. And, just like if I had 14 volumes and pictures and videos and personal testimonies about what it's like to swim in the ocean, I still would know not a damn thing about swimming in the ocean. Or I would not know what swimming in the ocean is. All I would know was what it's about, kind of. You know, I've been in a bathtub, so I can kind of think what it's like to be in the water. I've been in a swimming pool, so I can think I know what being in the Gulf is, or whatever. But I don't know it. All I know is about it. So, when you think about whoever wrote the book, he's trying to encourage folks not to run back out of fear into an old religion that doesn't connect them with God. You know? And when we get afraid, our first impulse is to do. Some of y'all, and I don't know all y'all that well now, but some of y'all, when you get anxious, you'll spend 40-some hours reading the Bible. That you've already read. Or you'll read this, or you'll write that, or that say stuff like, be still and know that I'm God. Be anxious for nothing. Why are you fretting like the pagans do, like the heathens do? And we might, the preacher say, don't be anxious, but if you don't act right, you're going to hell. We can't not be anxious. He didn't really mean that. He's just funning. Because I'm a little bit different than I used to be, brother. I've been struggling with this some. Because when you were here, you saw me in the midst of my ego being disintegrated. You know? And my ego, your ego, is tied to our senses and to our intellect. And our false selves. And where I've gotten to, and I'm still, I've got however many years I got left to deal with it, is that there's nothing I can do to fix myself. And my attempts to do otherwise is me trying to play God of a person that don't really exist. What we call sin, we call them sins, but that's really not the definition of the word. Drinking, dancing, chewing tobacco, or dancing with girls that chew tobacco, or whatever the cultural norm is in your world, ain't sin. Paul says, if y'all believe what Paul wrote, he said all things are permissible. You don't hear that in church a lot. You know. God's not going, you bad little motherfucker. You smoke marijuana. Your mama might say that. Your church might say that. God's not saying that. Paul also says not all things are profitable. You know. Dude, last night, or Monday night, living in the most affluent country in the universe that we know of, grown-ass man begging for a cigarette. You know? And if I would have given him a cigarette, I would have sinned against him. But so often, because we don't, we're not engaged in our own poverty and our own beggar, it hooks our guilt and our shame, and we go, "It's here, have $1. Leave me the fuck alone," and call it love. Because if I give him $1 or a cigarette, I just help him do that again tomorrow. You know? It's different if there's a group of 6-year-olds starving to death on the street. You know? But that man is poor and begging because that's what he chooses. But our own inner beggar, we do the same thing. We live in total abundance and beg people for things like value, identity, worth. You know? So I ain't worth nothing if she don't show me her titties. That's a lie. You're a beggar. You walk the street. Can I look? Can I touch? Can I touch? I have no worth unless you give it to me. I'm a beggar. But another person cannot give you worth. Your mama can't. The government can't. They can pimp you out though. And manipulate you. And promise and promise and promise. But there's always a hook in it. She'll love me if I do what she says. She says. Or he'll love me if I do what he says. He says. But by definition, that whole arrangement has nothing to do with love. It has to do with being trapped in our senses. Assuming and experiencing that our senses are who we are. Paul spoke of the sensory world in terms of the sarx, or the flesh. And whoever wrote the Hebrews was trying to help these folks get out of the trap of sensory religion and sensory reality, and that if you want to follow Jesus, I mean, the whole idea of the incarnation, what does that mean? Y'all ever heard that word, incarnation?
Manifestation in the flesh.
Yeah.
Fully God coming, living fully in the flesh, in the senses. He came to the senses. And became a priest over the senses. Rather than being dragged around by the senses. And thoughts and ideas and all that. I mean, the dude, I say this all the time, the guy that wrote most of the New Testament says in the end it's we see through a glass darkly. We don't know. No. We can know things like it's probably better to eat right, take Geritol, than to smoke meth. That's we can know those kinds of things. I mean, it's not, you know. We can know things like if I get my next wife at Sammy's, more than likely, it's not going to be a great thing when I catch her with her lesbian girlfriend. You know. Or whatever. You know. If you pay $5 a beer at the club and in the hopes of, because going clubbing is basically sensory worship.
Like drink 10 before. Like drink 10 before.
Sure. But you're not messing with me, baby. You're messing with your damn self.
That was a joke.
It was a bad one.
I'm sorry.
I mean, but you don't have to be sorry because I'm unaffected by retards. I mean, like I told a dude a month ago, you can't offend me if I don't give a shit about what you say. And it's not that I don't care about your eternal soul or whatever. I don't even know who the fuck your eternal soul is. You don't know who it is. You're just
Running around.
because something got triggered in you.
$5 beer.
No. Because if you just talk out of your ass, there's a reason.
Yeah.
But you're unaware of it totally. Huh? Right? You're outside your body. You're all in your head, thought this was funny, like you're still in junior high. And that's what Paul was talking about. When we're trapped by our senses, we still search for the titty, the milk. Feed me. When I'm living in abundance, I'm already fearfully and wonderfully made. I do not have a spirit of fear, but power and love and a sound mind. Except when I give my mind over to the sensory or the flesh and I'm not talking about beating your meat flesh. I'm talking about the fictional stuff of what the world tells me I am, who Mama said I was, what my history even seems to say that I am. But that is not who I am. I did not make me. My mother did not make me. This world did not make me. The Creator made me, and He says I am fearfully and wonderfully made already. And to know that, you have to be still. You have to find that place that is too deep for words. And you're not going to do it with your cleverness. You're not going to do it with your righteousness. Because Paul says his righteousness is like dirty Kotex. Compared to what he has discovered in Christ, in himself. It ain't even about Paul. Paul, his whole life was about Paul. And how good he was, and smart he was, and this he was, and that he was. And out of his righteousness, he ended up killing some niggas. Which is functionally the same word as Christian in our era. Or redskin, or Jew, or kike, or dago, or it's a magic word to get folks to jump. Get controlled by their senses, what they've been programmed. Because there are no niggas. Or crackers. And part of this debate stuff I've been hearing, Donald Trump don't honor women. Okay. Coming out of the mouth of a woman who would basically hold a girl down while Bill fucks them in the ass and give a speech about honoring women at the same time. And here's something I figured out. I don't honor women. There's no such thing as women. There's individual females. And some of them are deserving of honor, and some of them ain't. Any more than I honor all men. Honor may not be the right word, but I do honor them all. Just like you honor a puppy one way, based on its nature, and you honor a rattlesnake a different way, based on its nature. I honor them all. Sure, okay, I can change my wording, I guess. But there is no this illusion of women. You get honored because you got a vagina. No. Any more than you get honored just because you have a penis. That's all head games and magic and stuff. But if we think we're a group or a part of a group, if that's our identity, it's easily, I got to go with these people. Okay. And do what these people do, but these people do what they're told to do by the priests of the culture, and because they need to come to their senses, rein them in, understand that the senses are not master, thoughts are not master. Incarnate our senses, the flesh. Do you understand what I'm saying at all? Right? part of what grace is not believing, but acknowledging, knowing, experiencing the fact that I did not create myself. That out of love or creativity, God wanted to make a me. And God did not fuck me up. God didn't go, oh shit, I dropped him on his head. Damn. Poor bastard. There is no condemnation of me in Christ Jesus, it says. And what did Jesus say? Do what I did. Follow me. He didn't say go to church every Sunday and worship the Roman god Mithra. He says, come into my rest. Take my burden on you. It is light. But you're so damn hard-headed, you want to keep kicking in the goads and fuss and fight and then gripe because you're tired. There's nothing you can do to improve yourself. You can begin to be a little less retarded because your flesh is energized by anxiety. That's the nature of sin, is disconnection from God, disconnection from ourselves, disconnection from other people. And out of our fear is when we steal and lie and cheat and hurt and manipulate. Fear is the issue. Perfect love casts out fear. And what is love? Well, I got to hurry up. What is love then? Being sweet? No.
God. The ocean.
It does have love. God is love.
And what does that mean? You checked off the box. What does that mean? Okay, so you said the right word, you did the right trick. What does God is love mean?
Patient, kind. What it says in the Bible. You replace love with God.
Two souls.
The word is love.
Fearfully
You
and
believe in
beautifully
God.
made, and God's love for us is unconditional.
Peace and love. Agape.
It says love casts out fear, right? Because all those things you said are true, I guess. I don't know what they mean really functionally. You know, we can fill in the blanks and we can raise our hand at Sunday school and get the golden star. And we can believe such things are true, but if we don't know them, we're just farting in the wind, making noise. Because if those things, those words that we say don't bring radical change to us, then it's just fucking noise. Right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not being ugly at all.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between knowing what love is and doing what love is. I can say what I think it is, but I'm not willing to do that. Like, I believe if I love myself.
No, you believe what love is. Knowing it's a different thing.
Yeah.
You have the definition that you piece together in your life of what love is.
Yeah. That's what's good.
But I can paint a picture of the beach and never go there. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I was saying. You know, he asked us what love is, but what do we do?
Let me give you maybe a functional, practical thing to think about, in which this ain't the gospel either, and it's all metaphors. Okay, but we get trapped in our little metaphors, and sometimes the words need to be broken. The words need to die so they can be reborn in us. Why don't you just think about love is not fear. What would that mean if I did not act in fear? How would I act then? Because fear is the fuel of the ego and the flesh. When we're operating in our false self. Love is not being nice. Nowhere in the Bible does it say be ye nice. We have pictures, at least in my raising, in the religion of Jesus with his little sheet. His finely coiffed hair. You know. David with his harp. You know. And all that may be so, but you also have to include in there what would Jesus do. I'm going to give me a t-shirt maybe that says, y'all remember this? WWJD? I think I'm going to give me a t-shirt that says WWJD. Might make a whip and beat your ass.
Yeah.
What would Jesus do? Was Jesus love? Yes?
Yeah.
So I guess beating somebody's ass on occasion is love. Right? He wasn't very nice to the religious sensory-based priests that held on to their power by keeping people afraid of going to hell.
I was going to say, he wasn't afraid of them, so he didn't have to be nice to them. Yeah.
And loving is acting without fear. Sometimes, you know these people that always wanted to fight all the time? The most scared little bitches in the universe. Bitch, 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 bitch. You know? They see violence in nothing. And it triggers their fear. Because when you come to your senses, when you come to rule, when you incarnate your body, your senses, you're following the path of Christ.
Can you say that again?
I doubt it. Let me say, if you understand what I mean when I'm saying come to your senses, in terms of becoming priest of yourself, you no longer need a priest to intercede between you and God. When we submit, as whatever I just read said, Jesus learned, or whatever the word was. And God called him son. And he became a priest after the tradition of Melchizedek. Whatever he is. That when we come to our senses, when we incarnate, we are following the path of Christ. And we die to self. We die to the false self, the fear. Because it's the fear that makes us lie to our wives and we steal and we cheat and we lie and we hide and we bully. Because some people apparently, according to the Bible, need an ass whooping. Right? If you believe the Bible. Some people need to be called out in public and say you're rotten. Right? But what's going on in our culture is not that. It's all based on fear. I don't like black folks. I don't like white folks. I don't like gay folks. I don't like people with long hair. I don't like people with short hair. I don't like people with coexist on the back of their car. I don't like Bush, whatever, not Bush, who was Trump on the back of them motherfuckers. It's all crazy and fear-based. For practice, this week, today, at lunch, breathe and pay attention to how quickly you jump. And what is the theme of that? Stupid bastard. You know, what's the word after you jump comes to your head? What's that program? Y'all hear me? 'Cause you're, huh? How high? Or how high, how often, how... Because like we were talking last week, baby, your job ain't to figure all this other stuff out. Your job is to figure you out. And it ain't even about figuring, it's just about watching and seeing who you actually are. Becoming still. And the stuff will fix itself. Because the more I try to manipulate and change and do all them other folks, I'm just keeping the same old stuff. I'm begging them to change. I'm the beggar again. If you don't do this, then I am impoverished, which is a lie, because you're already fearfully and wonderfully made, living in abundance. That's all around you. And even if they kill you, okay. Because I've already died to my false self. I understand that I am eternal. I understand that no one can take me out of God's hands. Especially not the bitch heroin. Or the whatever. Or my wife, or my job, or my money, or... Because that's how we get prostituted by the world. Is we feel like deep down we're beggars and we need that. Right? Or we'll die. It's really cool when we lose that. Because sometimes addicts are y'all have it easier than most folks. Because sometimes y'all will blow your fucking world all the way up. You know, and most folks they don't know that they're in chains. Because they make $175,000 and they live here or there and their door's bigger than their neighbor's door and they think they're free when actually they're still just slaves. All right, bye.